You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's December the 12th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News. I'm live here at PACERadio.net. Cindy and Glenn aren't available today, so that means I'm going in alone. I've got 8 stories from Canada, USA, Germany, Malta. Plus, I've also got a press release from the Can Expo in Toronto. So let's just get to that right away. And they are announcing, the Can Expo is announcing they have access grants. They are being supported by the OCS. I got it right here in my hand. They're aimed at enhancing representation and participation of the Black, Indigenous, people of color, and women-owned retail, licensed retailers, and licensed producers brands at the Can Expo. So if you fall in one of those categories, you can apply for one of these grants. Now, what are they? They are to provide the successful applicants with a free in-kind registration, including you get a 10x10 booth, as well as the booth itself is furnished. It has tables, a couple of chairs, carpeting. You get hydro on top of that. Plus, you get promotion through Can Expo. The grant recipients will be picked randomized, and the eligible criteria says that you must be a licensed retail brand authorized by the AGCO or a licensed producer brand authorized by Health Canada. Follow that with a business must be at least 51% owned and operated by individuals who identify as Black, Indigenous, or person of color or woman. They encourage applicants from businesses that may face barriers to participation due to costs or other factors. So, just because you may not have enough money to, say you have a retail store and you're a solo retail store owner, and you may not have the money to be able to afford to get into an event like this. This is an opportunity for you to apply and get a free booth. Now, the application timeline, you have to have it in by this coming Monday on the 16th by midnight. So you got all day on the 16th. They have to get it to them. The winners, the people who are chosen, will be decided on Thursday. Is when you will be notified of whether you've won or not. So December the 19th. So for those, like I said, for those who would like to get involved in this, go to canexpo.ca. Maybe you'll get yourself a Can Expo access grant and get yourself in front of thousands of people that attend the event. All right, so check it out. canexpo.ca. All right, so on to our regular news. Here we go. My first story of the day. This comes to me from CBC, and it says the government misses deadline to seal cannabis possession records for thousands of Canadians. I knew this was going to be a problem. I knew it. Here we go. The government has missed a legislative deadline to fully implement a program that was pitched as a way to help Canadians with cannabis possession records avoid jumping through hoops to obtain formal pardons. Even though recreational cannabis has been legal in Canada since 2018, having a record for cannabis possession can prevent a person from getting a job or traveling outside the country. And the government has attempted to pardon Canadians convicted of simple possession. its primary expedited pardon program saw limited uptake. However, some Canadians hit logistical roadblocks in their applications, and I wonder what they were. In response to those concerns, the Liberals adopted an NDP amendment to their 2022 criminal justice reform legislation, Bill C-5, that would automatically sequester records for simple possession. Sounds good to me. Meaning they would no longer show up on a criminal background checks. In an effort to help people who may have addiction issues, the program also covers possession records for other illicit drugs. Now, Bill C-5 gave the government 2 years to sequester all possession records across the country. That deadline passed in November, and the Public Safety Canada recently told CBC News that the work of sequestering records is ongoing. It says here in a statement from the department, it says the RCMP is proceeding with manual validation and setting records aside in a part this week requires extensive research and significant effort. Anna Marie Alenajar, a criminal defense lawyer and former director of the advocacy group Cannabis Amnesty, yes, I know of them, told CBC News she isn't surprised that the deadline wasn't met. The program is very ambitious, given how many levels of government are involved in the collection and preservation of records. It's not just one. She noted that various governments and police agencies file records differently. Some have digitalized files, while others' records are kept in paper form. In cases where paper files still exist, she said someone would have to physically track it down and ensure it is kept separate, which could take significant time and resources. She says that you can't just press Alt-Delete and have them all disappear. She continues with, there would have to be a coordinated effort on part of the federal government to work with the provincial government and various law enforcement entities around the country, and I just haven't seen that happening. Now, Adam Tannenbaum, director of the nonprofit organization Pardons Canada, yes, I know of them, said the program was faced some bureaucratic hurdles. He says, the local police have their own records, which are separate from the RCMP records, so to coordinate that with every police station across the country is a challenge. I think that at this point, the government's got bigger fish to fry, and they've got other worries other than sequestering records. It just seems like it's not a high priority. Now, a month after the November deadline, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc issued a ministerial directive to the RCMP not to disclose simple possession offenses when completing background checks otherwise required by law. So don't include them, which is nice to see. Now, CBC News asked LeBlanc's office why the directive hadn't been issued earlier and when the government expects the project to be completed. His office said it would not be offering any comment, so no answers to any of that. Now, NDP MP Alistair McGregor accused the Liberals of failing to uphold their promise. Well, they did. Honest Canadians who are trying to get their lives on the right path are still waiting to have the records sequestered, but are being sidelined, he said in a media statement. But Eleanor says the directive probably does the trick, although she cautioned that it might not be a permanent solution. It's less about the existence of the records, and it's more about the impact that they have on people once they're disclosed, adding that a directive is more easily reversed than something laid out in legislation. She says that it's not a permanent solution, and if a government comes into power, and who wants to send a message that all drug offenses, even simple possession offenses, are going to be taken seriously, then you're going to have a revocation of that ministerial directive. Now, the Conservatives, who have a healthy lead in the polls, have called on the government to reverse some of the provisions in Bill C-5. CBC News asked the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's office if a Conservative government would maintain the sequestering portion of the bill, but has not yet received a response back on that yet. This has been a sort of a pain in my butt why they say it, and they say right in there that they cannot just press a button and wipe out people's past convictions for possession of cannabis. Why does it seem to happen all the time down in the U.S.? It goes right in the legislature. That's all part of the legislation when they put it together. And people's records are eliminated. But here, apparently, we can't do this. Now, I can understand where they're talking about the different levels of government, the municipal government, or, the provincial government, so on and so forth. But there's got to be a way to get this done. Like, I know the federal government has dropped a fee for doing your pardons, but that's not all the fees. There's still other fees that have to be done, such as getting your fingerprints from the police. They usually want a fee for that. That's not covered. And each one is done on a case-to-case basis. And, as they mentioned in that, you do case by case, it just takes forever. And unfortunately, here we are. People are suffering, not being able to get jobs or whatever because they've got a criminal record for simple possession. And you would hope that something like that, with legalization here in our country, would be removed and removed easily, and not being done with a big fuss going on. And it's ridiculous. And hopefully somebody gets something done about it so that people don't suffer for the fact that they had 3 joints 15 or 20 years ago. They've already suffered enough. So, all righty. On to my next story. This one too. When I saw this one, I thought, what? And here's the headline. Life in prison for carrying medical cannabis through an airport. Yeah, not all countries are cannabis friendly. Exactly. A patient carrying cannabis through an airport. Life in prison. Here's the story. It hits closer to home than I think some people might realize. In a shocking turn of events that has gathered international attention, a 64-year-old Canadian citizen, Maurice Kevin O'Rourke, I know of a Kevin O'Rourke, has been sentenced to life in prison in Dubai for possession of medical cannabis. The case raises significant questions about the intersection of drug laws, medical needs, and the rights of individuals traveling internationally. As the world becomes increasingly aware of the therapeutic benefits of cannabis, this incident highlights the stark differences in legal frameworks around countries, and the potential consequences of those who have inadvertently find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Now, as I said, I know of a Kevin O'Rourke. I don't know if this is this Kevin O'Rourke. The thing that adds to this could be is the fact that this Kevin O'Rourke is also a resident of Ontario, where I know this Kevin O'Rourke as well. He was traveling through Dubai International Airport when he was arrested in July of 2023. His journey took a drastic turn when customs officials discovered CBD oil and cannabis in his luggage. O'Rourke had been using these substances to manage his health condition, Addison's disease, a rare disorder that affects the adrenal glands and can lead to severe health complications if not properly managed. Despite his medical needs, O'Rourke faced the full brunt of Dubai's stringent drug laws. The United Arab immigrants have a zero tolerance policy towards drugs, including those that may be legally prescribed in other countries. This strict enforcement means that even trace amounts of illegal substances can result in severe penalties, including long prison sentences. I've sent a message to a family member to find out if this is the Kevin O'Rourke that I know. Even if it's not, this is ridiculous. The UAE is known for its tough stance on drug-related offenses. The country's legal framework categorizes various substances in different classes with severe penalties for possession, trafficking, and use. While many countries are moving towards more lenient policies regarding cannabis, especially for medical use, the UAE maintains a strict prohibition. Under the UAE law, possession of any amount of illegal drugs can lead to imprisonment. The penalties become increasingly severe based on the quantity found and whether the individual has prior convictions. In O'Rourke's case, the discovery of cannabis and CBD oil led to a life sentence, which is one of the hardest penalties under the law. What do I always say at the end of the show? Educate, medicate, do not incarcerate. That's why I keep saying that. People are still going to jail for life sentences. O'Rourke's health condition complicates his situation significantly. Addison's disease requires careful management through medication and lifestyle adjustments. Those suffering from this condition often experience fatigue, muscle weakness, and low blood pressure. The stress of incarceration can exacerbate these symptoms and lead to further health consequences. Reports from O'Rourke's families indicate that his health has deteriorated since his imprisonment. He has faced inadequate medical care while incarcerated, raising concerns about his well-being and ability to manage his condition effectively. Advocates for O'Rourke argue that his medical needs should have been taken into consideration during his trial and sentencing. We see that just not in this instance, but others. As we know with the basketball player Grenier, in jail for having some oil in her bag that she forgot about. So, the sentencing of Maurice Kevin O'Rourke has sparked outrage among advocates for drug policy reform and human rights organizations. Many are calling attention to what they see as extremely harsh punishment for someone who has used cannabis for legitimate medical purposes. Organizations such as the Canadian Drug Policy Coalition have voiced their support for O'Rourke and have urged the Canadian government to intervene on his behalf. They argue that international travelers should not be punished for using substances that are illegal in their home countries, especially when those substances are used for medical reasons. Public sentiment in Canada has also been largely sympathetic towards O'Rourke. Many Canadians view his case as emblematic of broader issues related to drug policy reform and the need for some compassionate approaches to individuals with medical needs. As O'Rourke appeals his life sentence, with hearings scheduled for December the 25th. This is 2023, it says on there. I don't think the story is that old. I'd be surprised. No, it's not. It says 2024 up on the top, people. So that must be a mistake on the date there. The role of the Canadian government became crucial. While Canada has legalized cannabis at the federal level since 2018, its sentence traveling abroad must navigate vastly different legal landscapes. The Canadian government expressed concern over O'Rourke's situation, but has limited options when it comes to intervening in another country's legal system. Okay. Diplomatic efforts may be necessary to advocate for more lenient sentences or alternative solutions to prioritize O'Rourke's health needs. Now, O'Rourke's case also highlights the growing divide between countries regarding cannabis use and regulation. In recent years, many nations have begun to recognize the medicinal properties of cannabis and have implemented policies allowing its use under certain conditions. Countries like Canada, several U.S. states, Uruguay, parts of Europe have embraced legalization or decriminalization efforts. Conversely, regions like the Middle East maintain strict prohibition against cannabis use. This disparity creates challenges for travelers who may not only violate local laws while seeking necessary medical treatments back home. Now, as Maurice Kevin O'Rourke prepares to appeal his life sentence, several factors will likely come into play during the process. Legal representation, number one. He will require competent legal representation, familiar with the UAE law, and experienced in handling of drug-related cases. A skilled attorney can help navigate the complexities of the legal system and advocate effectively on behalf of his client. Another one, medical evidence. Given that he's using cannabis for medical purposes, presenting credible medical evidence will be crucial during the appeal process. Documentation from healthcare professionals regarding his Addison's disease and treatment history could bolster his case by demonstrating that he was not using drugs recreationally, but rather as part of a necessary health regime. And public support can help. because public opinion can sometimes influence legal proceedings, especially in high-profile cases like O'Rourke's. Now, what's the potential outcome? Well, it's difficult to predict what it's going to happen. He could get reduced sentences. Alternative sentencing is a choice. Extradition or diplomatic resolution. Maybe kick him out of the country and send him back to Canada. But in the end, Kevin O'Rourke, as I said, 64-year-old Canadian citizen, sentenced to life in Dubé prison for possessing medical marijuana, starkly illustrates the complexities of the global drug laws and their impact on individuals with legitimate medical needs. And as he navigates the challenging appeal process amidst international advocacy and public support, it becomes essential to consider both the legal implications and humanitarian perspectives involved, emphasizing the urgent need for dialogue among drug policy reform, not only in Canada, but also worldwide, particularly as more countries adopt progressive approaches. For example, if you're going over to the U.S., visit some friends or whatever, do you have to tell them that you're carrying your prescription medicines? Not that I know. If you got prescription pills for something that it doesn't. There's no narcotic to it or anything like that. For example, stomach pills for somebody who has ulcers. You wouldn't have to tell the U.S. government, you're bringing that in. Why should you have to bring your medical cannabis if you got medical cannabis in both countries? And the U.S., that's why it's got to be changed federally, not state by state. So this situation highlights the importance of ensuring that individuals seeking relief from debilitating health conditions are not unduly punished while traveling abroad. And as we await further developments regarding O'Rourke's appeal schedule for Christmas, it is crucial for governments globally to recognize the necessity for compassion in drug enforcement policy, especially concerning individuals using medications legally prescribed by their healthcare providers at home. Hear, hear. Please support that. That's got to be changed. It's just not right. It's not. People are using their legal medical medicine and being sentenced for life in jail. How is that right? It can't be. Sad. If I could provide you just with some more information on where you could go to find out more about Kevin, what's going on there, I'll make sure that I post it on the thread of this news broadcast after the broadcast is over. Who knows? Maybe I'll find something during the break. But yeah, on to my next story. Those are just disturbing. I hate them, but they gotta be told. So here we go. Next story. This one comes to me from StratCan. BC's businesses team up to research effects of E-beam irradiation on cannabis. This is something a lot of us have wondered about. What happens when they hit our cannabis with gamma rays? Now, a cannabis education group has teamed up with a cannabis testing lab in BC to look into the impacts of radiation on cannabis. Now, Francis Hall and Tom Rothmeyer, the team behind Urbanistic, cannabis education and quality grading company based in BC, recently launched a study looking at how cannabis is affected by the E-beam remediation process. We call it the gamma ray there on it. Not just immediately after remediation, but also several months later. What happens down the road after they hit it with radiation, which is being done to kill off any bacteria, so on and so forth. That's there. While there have been studies done on the effects of radiation on cannabis, those results were only looking at the immediate impacts, not long term, says Hall. And his partner Rothmeyer wanted to better understand how that process can change cannabis after it sat on the shelves. As we know, it's not being packaged and right on the shelves right away. It could be sitting someplace for a month. I've opened cannabis, bought some pre-rolls that turned out to be a friggin' year old. So Hall says that the idea is one he has been looking at for a while, and it finally came together once they found the right partners with both a local producer providing cannabis samples and a local lab to test those samples. Now, the unnamed producer is providing two 160-gram samples from the same lot or batch, one that will go through a standard E-beam radiation process and one that will not. Those samples will then be shared with analytical cannabis testing lab, Northern Scientific, also in BC, which will test them for things like cannabinoid and terpene levels, as well as microbes like mold and mildew. Now, those samples will be tested right after the E-beam remediation process done at the facility in BC, and again after 3, 6, and ideally 9 months. This will give a better real-world look at how the E-beam process impacts both product quality and shelf stability for microbials. Now, they explain that it just struck me that a big thing we're missing is we're not reflecting the average supply chain that a product actually goes through until it reaches the consumer. So that was more the point that I was looking from. Is this research fit for purpose and an accurate representation of how a product typically gets remediated and moves through the supply chain? That's what he wondered. Now, Zach Paul, the CEO and founder of Northern Scientific Inc., located in BC, says he was eager to participate in the research when approached. Not only is he interested to see how the long-term effects of remediation on cannabinoids and terpenes, but also the long-term implications of the effect of the microbes of the self-life stability. He says that this is important not only for cannabis sold in Canada, which might wait weeks or months from harvest being sent to a distributor, then a store before a customer buys it, but also for cannabis sold on the international market. These products, he says, can often take an even longer and more cautious route to consumers, making it especially important to ensure the remediation process helps hold back unwanted microbial growth, not just immediately after, but several months later. Now, Paul says that we're very happy to be on board, and it's fascinating the information we're going to see at the end of this. It's valuable research that we just don't have. No one really does testing post E-beam or irradiation for potency or terpenes. So to be able to see what the degradation analytically we can find is going to be fascinating. As well with microbiology, we know that with irradiation or E-beam, it more or less stunts or puts those microbes dormant. It doesn't kill them completely. Ooh. So you will start to see regrowth. It's just a matter of when. Hey, that's yeah. Urbanistic is hosting a GoFundMe campaign to help raise $15,000 to pay for the research, although the page refers to research on irradiation. Hall retaliates that the research is specifically on the E-beam process, which differs somewhat from the irradiation process. Both are used by cannabis companies in Canada for the purpose of remediating their crops for self-stability, although E-beam has become the more commonly used process in recent years. Now, acknowledging the important distinction, Hall says he chose the term irradiation because it's the most commonly understood term among consumers. And yeah. Now, in addition to lab testing, they will also apply their own in-house grading system to the product, which includes blind sensory examination as well as product sampling to see if there are any noticeable effects of the E-beam process, either visually from the aroma or taste or even overall effect and experience. I think that it will complement the lab testing very well, Hall says, and I think it's going to give us an understanding of how the remediation has changed everything from the curing and freshness of the plant to the colors of the plant, the robustness of trichome heads, the color of the trichome heads, all the way through to the actual consumption of the product. All right. Well, I'll tell you, I am looking forward to seeing the results of that test. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. That's for sure, because a lot of the cannabis in Canada is done with that, and it'd be interesting to know how it turns out, and for the fact that it says that it doesn't kill everything, and that possibility that it could regrow, and it's never been tested for that all this time. I find that interesting. So hopefully they get do some good tests here, and we get the results. So they're going to be doing it 3, 6, and 9 month intervals. You're probably looking at a year's time before that report gets released. So you're probably looking at next Christmas, basically, before we'll know. But at least someone's doing it, right? That's the important thing. All right. On to my next story. Last one before I go to break. Headline on that says, new lawsuit filed to overturn Nebraska voters' medical cannabis vote. And this comes to me from an entrepreneur. And what is going on in Nebraska? God, this is just ridiculous. People voted on this. Get over it. All right. Now, John Clune, a former Nebraska state senator and former member of the State Board of Health, filed another lawsuit looking to block the medical cannabis legalization initiative passed last month by voters from taking effect. Now, this is another lawsuit. Like, people voted on this. Get over yourselves. Come on. The lawsuit was filed in Lancaster County District Court, where a little over 2 weeks ago, the Nebraska court judge, Susan Strong, dismissed the previous suit. It's already been decided by a judge, people. Now, it was dismissed by a previous suit filed by Con to challenge the medical cannabis petitions. That effort, which was supported by the Secretary of State, Bob Evans, and the Nebraska Attorney General office, is under appeal. The new lawsuit argues the state-level cannabis reforms are unconstitutional, unlawful, and impossible under federal law. Yeah, it's because the federal law hasn't changed and they won't change it. Come on, get your head around these things. Just because of the federal law, other states don't seem to worry about it. Now, a lawsuit excerpt from it says the votes were held on 2 activist drafted initiative measures, which had, to that point, evaded any judicial review for their compliance with the United States Constitution or Nebraska Constitution. The time for that reckoning is now, before further taxpayer funds are spent on a futile effort, they say. Now, Nebraska voters considered 2 medicinal cannabis ballot initiatives in November. So this is a bit of a background. One to legalize the use and possession of medical cannabis for qualified patients, and another to establish a state-regulated system for the cultivation, processing, and dispensing of medical cannabis. The issue had to be split into 2 ballot initiatives this year after a 2020 attempt to put medical cannabis on the ballot was struck down by the state Supreme Court for violating a single issue clause in the state constitution. So it was all in one piece. The Supreme Court said, no, can't go that way. So now they divided it into 2, like the Supreme Court of the state said to do. And now it's filing there's a second lawsuit saying that it's not being done right. And they talk about legalizing cannabis down there. Like during the election, they said some people want it just state rights and some people want it federally. See what happens when it goes state rights? People can still vote on it, but the state can still say, fuck you guys. Now, when the issue finally appeared before voters last month, they overwhelmingly approved both initiatives. Krista Yeager's campaign manager of the ballot measures said in the report that Nebraskans made it overwhelmingly clear that they support safe and regular medical cannabis access. The assertions that Nebraskans' new medical cannabis laws violate the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution, disregards decades of state-led independence and innovation, she said in a statement. Under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, states have the right to address the unique needs of their citizens without undue interference. And if you just make it federally law, it's just, this is what happened, state by state, big argument. They're going to be fighting this. And patients, yet again, patients having to suffer. It's not right. It's not right when it happened here in Canada. It's not right when it happens anywhere else around this world. So, all right, I gotta go. Gotta go take a break. I'm gonna have to medicate. This story's got me a little riled up. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at PACEradio.net. We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACEradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or PACEradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. Hey, I'm back. I got a little more information on this story of the Canadian that's in jail for life sentence. He's had 2 emergency surgeries while he's been in there. They're having problems finding his medication. And it says here he's had an open wound in prison for 3 months. He went from being Within 3 months of being in prison, he went from being strong and healthy to being in a wheelchair. There you go. Gives you a bit of an idea of how life is in prison for this fella. He's from Mississauga, Ontario. Life in prison again. If you missed the story, you can find it at Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News Facebook page. So, all right, on to my first story of the second half, and this one comes to me from the International Cannabis Business Conference. Headline says that Germany finalizes recreational cannabis pilot projects. It says that a major component of Germany's adult use cannabis legalization model involves launching regional adult use cannabis conference pilot trials. The European nation took a major step forward in implementing pilot trials by announcing that the Federal Agency of Agriculture and Food will help oversee the nation's adult use cannabis research products, which part of which includes pilot trials. They say that in an announcement, by passing the Consumers Cannabis Act, the Bundestag has given the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture was given the task of appointing the responsible body for processing research applications on consumer cannabis and industrial hemp. The regulation that has now been issued, the Consumer Cannabis Science Responsibility Regulation, stipulates that the Federal Office for Agriculture and Food will examine corresponding research applications and monitor the approved projects. Now, previously, this task was carried out by the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. The BFARM remains the responsible authority for research into medical cannabis. Germany enacted the first provisions of the CanG legalization law in April the 1st of 2024. Adults in Germany are now allowed to cultivate cannabis in their private residence and to possess a personal amount of cannabis in their homes and while away from their residence. Starting on July the 1st, 2024, adults could apply to start a member-based cultivation association in Germany. Personal cultivation, possession, and consumption, combined with cultivation associations, were part of Pillar 1 of Germany's CanG law. You know, we wish that we had those things here where you could grow in an association or, you know, as a group so you could help each other. Researchers on and with consumer cannabis is now possible again, but requires a permit. Applicants must meet the criteria set out in the Consumer Cannabis Act, demonstrate the required expertise, and demonstrate an interest in research. Not only universities, but also companies can submit research applications. Research can help to effectively curb the black market, expand health prevention, and make the debate more objective, the German government has stated. Now, while this week's announcement gives Germany a step closer to launching pilot trials, more steps are necessary before the full implementation. And the regulation, pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the CanG, regulates the scientific use of cannabis for consumption. Anyone who wants to possess, cultivate, produce, import, export, acquire, receive, hand over, pass on, extract cannabinoids from the cannabis plant, or trade in cannabis for consumption for scientific purposes requires a permit from the Federal Office of Agriculture and Food. And they say that this is not the second pillar of the key points paper. The second pillar should test cannabis specific specialty stores nationwide in a comprehensive, detailed law. And the Federal Ministry of Health is responsible for drafting such a draft law according to what they say at the FAQ page. So there you go, Germany. You know, legal cannabis, people being able to grow their cannabis, all that stuff. And others are being put to jail for life imprisonment. Just not right. Just not right, people. All righty. On to my next story. And this one's coming to me from Mugglehead News or Mugglehead Magazine. Headline says San Francisco psychedelic church shuts down over hostility from city officials. Getting harassed by the sounds of it. The San Francisco church, with reference for ethogenic plant is closing its doors due to alleged harassment from officials in the city's planning department. Dave Hodge, founder of the Church of Ambrosia, says that the authorities are picking on his organization because they are not open-minded enough to appreciate it. He feels that their targeting of this place of worship constitutes religious discrimination. He says it's obviously hostility from people in the planning department, he says in a news release of the matter. The department has been going out of its way to find structural flaws in the church's building ever since the psilocybin mushroom worship commenced, Hodges says. That would cost them up to $200,000 to fix it. The building has been inspected by the planning department many times, and it wasn't until we opened up that all these problems started to be a big issue. This is what Hodges says during a press conference. He thinks that the universe is telling him to get out of the city and do God's work elsewhere. There is a great deal of crime in the area where the building resides too, which is rather unpleasant, and somebody got stabbed outside the church's back door recently. Now, the building's owner, Tiana Tikhonov, chef, says that I never had any problems with the planning department until Dave opened the church. Until then, it was fine. Now, the Church of Ambrosia will now be solely conducting ceremonies in its primary location in Oakland. It has over 120,000 members who partake in the consumptions of magic mushrooms, cannabis, and DMT. Not a small church. It's got that many followers and people that are involved in it. It's too bad that it's got hassled. There's so many places now in the U.S. that are coming along and supporting medicinal bets of cannabis, and they obviously were using it for religious reasons. So, all right. Now we're going to head off to Massachusetts because Entrepreneur has a story there that says that Massachusetts unveils plan for cannabis consumption sites, including cafes, theaters, and yoga studios. You can smoke doobies in theater. I went, what? Got to find out more about this. So let's all find out together. It says here, the officials of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission last week revealed regulators' plans regarding new industry licenses for establishments looking to allow the social consumption of cannabis. Massachusetts voters approved the licensing of social use cannabis businesses when they passed the state's cannabis legalization law in 2016. But last week's presentation was the biggest development yet in that part of the law's implementation. So it was improved in 2016, and here we are 8 years later, and they're finally getting to it. Well, here we are. We had all kinds of lounges here, especially in Ontario, until legalization, and then basically they outlawed it when they said the Smoke-Free Ontario Act and got cannabis tossed in there, and our lounges shut down. Majority of them are folded up. So, and now the upcoming license types will cover 3 types of businesses according to the presentation revealed Thursday. Supplemental, for pre-existing businesses like dispensaries. These licenses would supplement a company's existing business model with on-site consumption possibilities, including tasting rooms, social events, and even cafes. These licenses would allow for the consumption of cannabis products purchased on-site. Tasting rooms. Hospitality license, meant for non-cannabis commercial business spaces. These licenses will allow unrelated businesses to branch into the cannabis industry with a wide variety of business models, including yoga studios, movie theaters, and other creative possibilities. Regulators said these licenses will allow for both bring your own cannabis, BYO, and products purchased on site. So if you got a movie theater, you could, I don't know, like, would it have to be outside? Would it be people be able to, let's say they're showing Up in Smoke or a Cheech and Chong movie or a cannabis educational documentary? What if cannabis cured cancer? Would people be able to consume their cannabis while they're watching an educational documentary? That'd be cool. Now, event organizers, these licenses will cover temporary social consumption sites for specific events like concerts or festivals, which last no longer than 5 days. The license will allow for both BYO and on-site cannabis purchases. Yes, we need that here in Ontario. And I know that there are provinces, Alberta, they've been allowing people to consume cannabis at Stampede. So, it is happening here in Canada, just not happening here in Ontario. So we need that changed. Okay, Mr. Ford, get that changed. We need some lounges here in Ontario, and we need to be able to, just like when it comes to alcohol, you hold social events, you get a temporary license in order to have, at a wedding, at a hall. I used to live beside a hall. It didn't have a regular bar. People would get a temporary license from the liquor store. And somebody with SmartServe would serve the alcohol to the people at the wedding. So why can't we do that with cannabis? Serve cannabis beverages at a wedding. That makes sense to me. Or edibles. Or, whatever, smoke. All righty. Last story of the day. And this comes to me from the International Cannabis Business Conference. Headline says, Malta cannabis legalization has not led to increased consumption rates. Hey, another one. Places say, oh, you legalize cannabis. Oh, your consumption rates are going to go up. More people are going to smoke it, more young people. But yet, time and time again, it's proven it doesn't happen. And it's not just whether it's here in Canada, it's happening around the world, as we're seeing here with Malta as well. Now, Malta became the first European country to adopt a national adult use cannabis legalization measure back in 2021. According to the results of a recent survey, the policy change has not led to an increased rate of cannabis consumption. It says here that people who admitted smoking cannabis in the past year account for 4% of the population, a decline from 7% in 2021. A Eurobarometer survey shows that 53%, this is according to the report, 53% of the respondents across all EU member states are in favor of regulating cannabis for recreational use. Now, in addition to Malta, cannabis is legal at the national level in Luxembourg and Germany, as well as Uruguay, Canada, and South Africa. Each legalized nation has a different model with different provisions and limits. In Malta, cannabis cultivation is permitted by adults up to 4 plants, as is personal possession of 7 grams when away from the home and up to 50 grams at home. Okay, hang on here, Malta. You need to change that. 7 grams away from home. How do you go away? Go go away for a week. 7 grams isn't gonna last, really a week. Maybe for some people, but not for a lot of people. And 50 grams at home. You're allowed to store 50 grams. You got 4 plants. Well, I can tell you, one plant you can produce well over 900 grams, over 1,000 grams with one plant. So how are you going to keep 4 plants or even one plant to 50 grams, which is less than 2 ounces? The only way you're going to do that is not grow it right or have problems. I know in the past I've grown a plant that only produced 7 grams, but I know that there was problems and got that changed. Learned more, right? So 50 grams at home. Come on, Malta. I've got a friend over there, Tracy. I'm going to be talking to you, Tracy. I actually sent her this link, so hopefully she's read it and agrees. 50 grams at home is ridiculous. Now, cultivation associations, often referred to as compassion club or cannabis clubs, are also permitted in Malta. Perfect, great, but I hope they can hold more than 50 grams. Now, adults can become members of a club and legally source the cannabis from them. As of August 2024, roughly 2,000 had joined a registered cannabis club in Malta. According to the nation's top regulatory chief, legalization in Malta is working. They say, according to that chairperson, Joey Renee Vella stated recently that the country's harm reduction approach is working. Before 2021, before the reform was enacted, you had a reality where studies showed a large portion of the population used cannabis, but they had no regulated market from where to buy it. Sounds like here in Canada. The cannabis they bought was not cultivated in a safe manner, so posed more risks. They had to turn to the black market where they did not know what they were buying. Now, since recreational legalization took effect in Malta in 2021, a total of 39 people have faced prosecution for consuming cannabis in public spaces. Come on. You're only allowed to smoke in your room. But what if you live in a building, a condominium like you do here in Canada, and you're living in a condominium that doesn't allow you to do smoking? You can't smoke in public? We're like, you got to find the farmer's field or somewhere to go where there's nobody around? Come on, Malta. You can do better than that. Come on, Tracy. Get at them. Get at them. Spread some of this cannabis advocacy over there and get that law changed. And hopefully, improve things. At least they got it legalized. That's the good thing. So, and improve it from there. All right, people. That's it. That's my news report for December the 12th, 2024. And from the Legacy420.com news desk, thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, At-Eze.ca, as well as at Legacy420.com. Thanks for all those people for making sure that the news gets out and people can find out what's going on. And in closing, as I always say, thanks for tuning in, and please don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate, especially for life sentences, for having a little bit of CBD oil or cannabis on you when you travel. Let's hopefully our world leaders can get together and stop that insane injustice, penalize people and sentencing them to life in jail is not right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. The next broadcast is Monday at 10 a.m. We'll see you all there. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACERadio.net.